Welcome to this episode of Hidden in Plain Sight, the series where we uncover the Microsoft 365 apps you're already paying for but probably aren't using. From hidden gems to surprisingly powerful tools, we'll show you how to get more out of your Microsoft subscription without paying for a penny more. And next up, Microsoft Forms. Forms is your fast, no-fuss way to collect information, whether it's registrations, feedback, questionnaires, or quizzes. Trust me, this app is all on good form. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, stick around and let's take a look at Forms together. Today we're going to be looking at Microsoft Forms, and the first thing we need to do, of course, is open the application. Now, Forms is a web-based app, which means we must access it through a web browser such as Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome. Once you've opened your preferred web browser, simply browse to the website Microsoft365.com. If you're using a work computer, you might find that you're automatically signed in using your work account, which is great. If not, simply click Sign In and then authenticate with your Microsoft account. Now, Microsoft365.com is essentially your centralized hub for all things Microsoft. In here, you'll find your recently worked on documents, the people you've recently collaborated with, and you'll also be able to get access to all the applications and services that you are licensed for. So if we go into the top left menu icon here, we'll be able to see all the apps that we have access to, such as Outlook, OneDrive and Word, which are all familiar apps to us. But you also have some other apps that you might not have explored yet, such as Sway and the one we're looking at today called Forms. Now, if you don't see Forms immediately in this list, if you click More Apps, you'll get a new tab, and in there you'll see even more services and apps that you have access to. In the category section under productivity, you will see Forms. So without further ado, let's click to open Forms now. And if that was a bit long-winded and you'd prefer to come to the app directly, you can always browse to forms.office.com and it will bring you to exactly the same place. Now, this is the initial Forms interface that we're greeted with when we open it. We have three options in the top left-hand corner: New Form, New Quiz, and Quick Import. The first buttons, New Form and New Quiz, are all about creating a new form or quiz completely from scratch, no templates there at all. Now, the difference between a form and a quiz is simply that forms are more for general purpose tools such as collecting data, running surveys and collecting feedback, and they don't have any kind of specific grading or assessment elements to them. And they tend to be also used for automation as well, so if you wanted to collect some data and then have some automation trigger on the back of that data, then forms are generally the way to go. So it's your kind of general data collection and analysis. Whereas quizzes, they're more of an assessment. So they incorporate features like points and scoring, so you can have scores assigned to certain questions. So if you think back to those dreaded maths tests where you'd have an easy question that was worth 2 points and a harder question that was perhaps worth 10 points and all that good stuff, that's exactly what you can do with quizzes. And what you can do on the back of the quiz is mark the correct answer as well. So when a student or a recipient goes through that quiz, they'll select their answers and at the end they'll be able to get an automatically marked a feedback form which will tell them which questions they got right and which ones they got wrong and how many points out of, say, 100 they got. So it's all that assessment and automatic marking and grading and the feedback. So really good for that kind of student and teacher relationship sort of thing, where forms, as we said, are more for general data collection like employee satisfaction forms or general registration like signing up for an event or something. And then Quick Import allows you to import a Word document or a PDF file. So you might be using Forms already, but that's simply just Word-based or a PDF, and they're not quite digitized or interactive like Microsoft Forms can make them. So what you can actually do is import those files into Forms, and it will do its best to translate that into a nice fluent experience. If we click See Import Guidance, we can see an example of a Word document here. And if you've got a similar Word document where it's clearly laid out, question 1, and then a few options underneath like A, B, C and D, then hopefully Forms will be able to translate that nicely into a better format online. So 3 different options there: create a new form, create a new quiz from blank, and quick import. We then have this explore templates, and this is really good for people who aren't feeling particularly creative on a specific day or need a bit of inspiration and don't know where to go. It's also a kind of starting point for us today to have our first look at what a form actually looks like in Forms, because we haven't done that yet. So the templates that we have immediately available here are things like feedback, registration, research and quizzes. But if we click template gallery, we get even more here, and there's just tons. There's like a holiday party invitation, a post-event feedback survey, you name it, it's probably somewhere in here. So if we just look at some trending templates and maybe go into the employee satisfaction survey, that seems to be a commonly used one. I'm sure we've all filled out these in the past. So let's click into that and take a look. You'll see on the left hand side, we have some more template recommendations and suggestions as well. So we're not just stuck with this template, we can mix and match and swap and change here. So immediately we have this nice little box and an infographic with the title of the form, the date of today, and then a little description that says we're invited to this survey. We've got some questions here like what is your job role, so single select answers that are predefined for us. How long have you been in the organisation, what's your age group, all those standard stuff. We've got a bit of a Likert here which allows us to go strongly agree, disagree, all that good stuff that we've seen. And then maybe further down, do we have some text? Yeah, so we've got some feedback, a text box. So you can instantly see that how Forms works. It's exactly like the form you might draw up on a piece of paper or in Word, but it's all digitized and really nice, and so many different options we can play about with, which we will do shortly. But this is essentially Forms, and there's loads of different styles and layouts we can choose as well. So if we come out of this employee satisfaction survey and maybe go into the holiday party invitation and see how that perhaps differs. So we've been invited to a holiday party here, and we can see the layout is immediately different. It's a bit more condensed, and it looks like it's designed more for like a mobile phone or a tablet device rather than a wider computer screen. So in here we've got name, number of guests, we've got a drop down menu here which we haven't seen yet. Go further down, further text, checkboxes, all that good stuff, and it's kind of this condensed view with a nice big background and as well the banner image and a description. So we can play around with styles till our heart's content, and we will do in subsequent sections in this video. So there are two examples of some forms that you can create and how they look and feel when we populate them. So if we go back to the interface now and outside that template gallery, but by all means, if you want to start with a template, you can absolutely do that. We've got these tabs here as well. So recent will show us the forms and quizzes we've recently interacted with, whether that's a population as a recipient, we've populated a form, or maybe we've created one. If we go to My Forms, these are all the forms that we've created ourselves. Filled forms are the opposite, so forms we've populated as a recipient. Forms that have been shared with us. So a really good thing about forms is that you can collaborate with other people. So if a colleague has got halfway through a form and then you need to get involved, then they can share that form with you, which allows you to collaborate with that and edit it, and you'll see that in this tab. And if you've got a favourite form, you might have a load of forms in your business, you can always favourite the ones that you use often, and then they'll show in this favourites tab. So we're going to do two examples in this video. We're going to create a form and we're going to create a quiz. But let's start off by creating a form. So let's hit New Form. Okay, so this is our blank canvas to create a new Microsoft form. Instantly we see this draft with Copilot button here, or this box. We're not going to use Copilot today, which is Microsoft's artificial intelligence solution, but we will demo it at the end if you're interested, so I'll just hit close now. On the far left hand side we have this button called templates, which shows all the templates that we saw earlier in the main Forms interface. So if we ever decided that we want to revert back to a form and a template and save some time, we can absolutely do that at any point by hitting templates and then choosing our desired options there. We have a few buttons at the top such as style and collect responses. We'll go through that a bit later on once we've got the form defined, so we'll just ignore that for now. So let's start off with our first box here, which is let's get started. What's our form about? So we need to enter a title, and we're going to create a form for collecting feedback based on a summer conference our organisation has just had. We want to understand how people found it, if they enjoyed it, and what could we improve for the next one next year. In the box below that we can put a subtitle, and you can use this as a bit of an opportunity to put a bit more of a description about what the form's about. I'm going to cheat, I've got some predefined text here, but it's basically going to say would love their feedback on this year's summer conference, which took place across multiple dates. Perfect, so we've got the title and we've got the subtitle in already. If we hit this preview button here, we've always got the chance to preview the form as we create it. So this allows us to look at the form as if we were a recipient who's about to populate it. So if I hit preview now I can flick into that view, I can see our title and our subtitle description there, and then a button to submit the form, which is pointless at the moment because it's completely empty. In the top right, we can see a computer and a mobile button here, and all this allows you to do is just select different views so you can look at how the form looks like on a computer screen and also how it looks like on a mobile, so you can make sure that user interface is nailed down across both devices. So feel free to use that preview button as you develop your form to get a feel of how it flows. To add more content then, we're looking out for this plus icon here which says Quick Start. So we're going to hit the plus icon, and this is going to allow us to create our first question or our first element to populate on the form. And there's loads of different options here such as choice, text, ratings, date, and we'll go into them as we go through this form. So we're going to start off with a choice, and you can see we've got this segment here now, this like grey box, which is designed and revolves around just this one question. So question number 1, what do we want to ask? Well, first of all, did you attend any of the summer conference dates this year? So obviously we want to work out if he attended or not before we get any feedback from them. And you can see here we've got option 1 and option 2 already, so we can just remove those and replace that with a simple yes and no. So these are the options, the answers that we're making available for the recipient to go down and select as they answer this question. As we chose before, this is a choice component, which means we're giving the recipient a choice. So we are putting some predefined options in there. Did you attend the summer conference? Yes or no. And you can see some suggestions from forms here as well. We've got a maybe option, so if I was to click that, it would put a maybe field in there. If we wanted to reorder any of these choices, we can absolutely use the arrows at the side of each one, so we can move that up and move it down, and we can also hit the trash icon to delete an option as well. If we want to add another option, we can click add option, and so forth. We get new options we can add in there. If we wanted to add an image for each option, we can just click that little picture icon there, and it gives us the option to look in our OneDrive to upload an image from our computer, our desktop, and it also allows us to search for web too. And going back to our title, if we click the title section on this form, we can do the same there. So anywhere you see this insert, paste or drag media box, you can simply click it to find an image online in your OneDrive or to upload an image from your machine, and it will impose that image in the form in that chosen section. Okay, going back to our first question then, we also have this add other option. So add option puts a new space in there, so we can add another predefined answer for the recipient. But if we add other, it's going to be a generic other, and you can't do anything with that. And that basically allows the recipient to go, well, yes or no doesn't quite fit. I'm going to hit this radio button here for other, and then I can put a custom answer in there if I like. So it gives them that flexibility if you want the recipient to have that. We can select multiple answers here in the bottom right, and that allows the person who's filling in the form to select multiple. So for example, in this, it would allow them to select yes and no, which doesn't really make sense in our question type because it's they either did attend or didn't. But if there was a few different options there and you know, it made sense that they could choose multiple answers, then you can enable that, and that allows them to do that. At the moment, it's just going to allow them to select one or the other by default. We can make the question required as well. So if you've ever filled out a form online or signed up to an event and you've got to the bottom of the form after populating all your information, you've hit submit and it says, nope, you need to go back through the form, you've missed this field. That is exactly what this required button does here. So if we mark this question as required, it means the recipient can't skip it. They have to answer this question before they can submit the form. So of course, we're going to make that required because it's a super important question for us. If we go to the three dots here, more settings for the question, we can find some other options, and these options will vary depending on the type of question you've got. As we mentioned, this is a choice question, so what we can actually do here is shuffle the options, and that's basically shuffling our predefined answers. So you might see it in this order where it says yes at the top and then no. If we enabled that shuffle option, so it's got a tick next to it, every time someone goes to that form, this form to fill it in, those answers will be in a different order. We've also got the ability to turn it into a drop down. So if I hit drop down and then hit preview, we can see that that question now, did you attend the summer conference? We've got a drop down for our answers. Whereas by default, if I was to turn that off again, we're just going to have the radio buttons like this to select. So it's all about user interface and how you want the form to flow and people to fill it out. It's not game-changing settings by any means. The question and answers are still the same. It's just how you want people to interact. We've got another important setting called branching here, and we'll go on to that shortly. But before we do, let's add our next bit of content, our next question. So we're going to add some text now. So again, we're going to hit the plus icon here to add our new element. And then we're going to say it's going to be a text-based question now. So we're going to allow people to enter text. And the question's going to be simple. It's going to say, capitals, "We missed you, !" Is there anything we could do in the future to make the event more appealing? ? So if someone selects no there, we want to be able to say, well, we missed you. Was there anything we could do to make you come maybe next year instead? Was there anything that put you off about this event? The setting we've got this time is long answer. And you can see the text box here is quite small, and we want people to be able to add quite a bit of detail in here to really help us and get some constructive feedback. So we're going to tick long answer, which allows the recipient to enter like a paragraph, if you like, rather than just a sentence. And you can see the text box is a little bigger there. We're going to keep it required because it's a very important question for us. And if we hit the options, we can put some restrictions in. So we didn't see the restrictions in the predefined choices before. We saw the ability to make it a drop down, for example, but this time, because it's text, we can put restrictions in. And this is where we can control what type of characters can be typed in here. So we can say, well, only numbers can go in that text box. Obviously that doesn't make sense for this question. We can say, well, we can only allow text, or we want to only allow a certain amount of characters and letters in there. Or we can say, well, it's got to be in an email format, so it's got to have, at domain.com in there, or it's got to be a link, a URL. So you can put some restrictions on what the recipient can enter into this field to make sure that the data you're getting is exactly what you're expected. We don't want to put any restrictions here though. It's an open-ended question, so I'll remove that for now. Let's now add our next question. Wow, look at that, we're on question 3 already. So if I go to add new question, we're going to add a date this time, and this allows the recipient to use a calendar to select a date. So we're going to say, please select the date you attended the conference. We had multiple dates across the conference. We need to understand which day they attended because we might have had better days than others. Not many options here. We've got the required field, which it absolutely needs to be, and we've got nothing more than subtitling and adding a branch in there. The subtitle, by the way, allows you to add a bit more context around the question. So if we add that in, you can put a bit of a description, a bit more of it, I guess, for if you need a bit more information in there, or some rules to what we can do in this question and how we should fill it out. You can put that in there if you like, but we're not going to do that ourselves. So we've got our 3 questions there. So if we go to preview, let's have a look at how this flows. So did I attend the summer conference? Yes. Question 2, we missed you. Oh, that doesn't quite make sense, does it? Because we attended the conference. They shouldn't miss us. We were there. We don't want to answer that question. We only want to answer that question if it's a no. And likewise, if I hit no and then put my reason in there, more food, ! Then, please select the date you attended the conference. Question 3 then appears, and that doesn't make sense either because we didn't attend. So let's now look at this branching concept, which allows us to choose which question should appear based on the answer before it. So it all starts with question 1 in this instance. Where do we want the recipient to be directed to once we select one of these answers? So let's go back into here and click add branching now. We can see here now, we can say, well, go to next. If we hit yes or no, I'm actually going to put it next to the next question. So question 2, we missed you. Well, we only want it to do that for no. So we're going to go to next. That's absolutely fine for no. But if we did attend, then we want to skip that and go straight to question 3. So let's hit that drop down there and say, well, go to 3. Please select the date you attended the conference. And likewise, on question 2, let's look at the branching there. Once we've entered our answer and explained what would make the event more appealing next year for ourselves, go to next. No, that's not right. We actually want to drop down and go, well, that's actually the end of the form for yourself. You've told us that you didn't attend, and you've given us some constructive feedback to how we can make it more appealing. So that's enough for us. There's no point answering any other question about the conference if you didn't attend. So let's have a look now. Let's go back once we've done that branching and go to preview. And you can see now we can't see the other questions because we haven't selected an answer yet. It's actually going to hide them. So did you attend the conference dates this year? Yes. Please select the date you attended the conference. There you go, it's gone straight to that question 3. Although it marks it as question 2 to keep it sequential, it has skipped over that question 2 and it doesn't say we've missed you anymore. Likewise, if I hit no, it's going to say we missed you, is there anything we could do in the future? And then it's going to allow us to submit, and that's the end of the form for ourselves. It's not going to go through any more questions. So that is how the branching works, and it's really smart and you can get super clever with it. Okay then, let's put another question in there. Let's choose a ranking capability now. So let's have a question that says, please rank the provided catering options in order of your preference on the day. Helps if I can spell, let's just correct that. So we want the person to be able to order their favourite catering. We had a lot of food trucks at this event, so let's put a few options in there, such as pizza, barbecue, and then maybe one more. Let's go for loaded fries. So these were the different food trucks. We want to understand what were people's favourite, and this is why we can use the ranking capability, which allows the recipient to move these about themselves and put them in the order of their favourite. Not many options here. Again, it's going to be required, and we can shuffle options around every time they look at this form if we wanted a different order. So if we look at that now, then did you attend a summer conference this year? Yes, we did. Please select the date we attended today, and please rank the options. So we've got pizza, barbecue and loaded fries. We can see these arrows next to each one. Let's move it around and say, well, I really liked the loaded fries. The barbecue wasn't so good this year, but the pizza was excellent. And there we go, we can order based on our preference. Next question then is called Likert, and we'll have seen these a lot when we've filled out forms in our work life and personal life, perhaps, where we've had to kind of say how much we agree with a certain statement. So let's click that option here and give it a question of rate each of these items based on how well they're accommodated for, how well they were accommodated for, and my spelling again. Let's put some options in here then. So these are our options that we want to give the metrics, I guess, we want to assign to these statements. So we're going to say, let's just do disagree, neutral, and agree. Normally you have strongly agree and strongly disagree, but just to save time, we'll just go with those 3. And statement 1 could be something such as the venue contributed to my overall event experience. So was the venue good? And then another statement could be something like the catering options, again, there's a bit of a food trend here, met my expectations. And then somebody could go through that and go, well, did the venue contribute, disagree, didn't really feel it, or agree, and then so forth. Then we can select a different option for each of the statements, and it's a good way of capturing that feedback really quickly and really intuitively for the end user as well. We don't have to go through tons of questions, we can just click and job done. Cool, so that's a Likert. One final thing we're going to do then is put another choice in here now, and we're going to make it multi-select so you can see that very quickly. So we're going to say, what would you be most excited to see at future events? Select all that apply, and we could put things in here like more workshops, live music, add another option. Let's go for surprise giveaways or presents or something like that. And this time, before, when we did our first choice question, it was a yes or no, and we only allowed the recipient to choose one answer. This time we're going to say, well, to your heart's content, choose as many as you want, and we're going to set multiple answers here. And you can actually set a limit for that as well. So you can say, well, select all 3 if you want of the answers, 3 out of 3. But if we want to say, well, just limit it to your 2, so you could say, well, equal to 2, which would say to the recipient they only can select 2 of these out of the 3. And vice versa, but we're not going to put a limit on that. We want to be kind and let people choose exactly what they'd be most excited for. So that's how you create a format, and you've seen how quickly we've just flown through all those different options, and there are a few more that we haven't gone through as well. One thing I would like to show you here is that each section, each component that we click into has these arrows, and it means we can actually reorder them so easily. Look at how the numbers automatically change on the questions as we're moving these about. So it's really easy to reorganize and reorder questions. And if you didn't like a question, you've always got the trash icon here, which deletes just that question only. And if you liked a question and you want to duplicate the structure of it, for example, this Likert, if we've made a big one here and we want to make a duplicate, we can hit copy, and it will paste that right below it, and we can then tweak that and just change a few things for the next question. So it's all about making things really easy for the designer of the form here. So I think we've got our form pretty much structured now. We've got the content in there. Let's maybe take a look at styling it. So we go to preview again. It's not really on brand. The colors don't really make sense. It's not really us. So let's go to style now. This first button on the toolbar. Let's see what options we've got. So first of all, we can change the layout, and we saw this in the templates, how some forms had more condensed, more long form, that sort of thing. So let's click a few here. Okay, that looks a bit more modern and fresh. Quite like that. Let's click a few more. Okay, that's probably my favorite. It looks quite sleek and quite nice. So let's go for that general layout. We've then got some suggested themes here. So let's just click through some examples. There we go. We've got that one. We've got this one. You can see how it's changing the imagery against it. But we've actually got this customize button here. And if we're not feeling that any of the provided ones are good enough for us, we can hit customize. And this is where it gets a bit more exciting in terms of branding up the form. So we can have some color themes here. So we can create our own themes. Actually click this plus icon, and we can upload our images and also select a custom color. So if I went to upload image now here, I'm going to go to upload, and I'm going to upload Mondo Clouds traditional white background with the colored clouds, and hit open. And in a moment now, we can see that background splat on that form, and that looks top notch. Really happy with that. And it's automatically recommended a color here, the hex color for us. And it's this like dark browny gray color. Not really what I wanted. Probably want a different color there. And what you can actually do is go to Google and just Google hex color picker, and you can use this kind of color line here to get different hex numbers, and you can see that number changing as we're selecting different colors. I'm just going to choose a very light pink. It's probably not going to look great, but I'll copy that hex number, and I'm going to pop it in here, and then there you go. We can see that background changes pink now. So we do have that custom option available, so we can either choose these different color themes that are pre-provided, or we can go into this option on the right hand side and then upload an image and choose the color ourselves using a hex color. So that's how we can customize the layout and the feel and the look of the form. No groundbreaking stuff, pretty standard and simple. And if you wanted some background music for the recipient to listen to, you can enable that and choose a nice background song so they don't get bored when they're filling out questions. So that's the styles. We've also got this settings button here, so let's just quickly see that. And this is all about how people can fill in the form and what the different parameters are that we can set. And we'll quickly go through this. I won't go through every single one, but we can see, well, who can fill out this form? Can anybody in the world respond if they have the link for it? Can only people in our organisation, so only in Mondo Cloud, respond? Well, it's a summer conference, so that makes sense. We don't want a stranger down the road filling in this form. We only want our employees who would have attended the event to do so. Then you've got these options here. Do you want to capture the name of the person? So do we want to know who submitted this form and filled this feedback out, or do we want to make it anonymous? It's your choice there. You can tick it or not. And then how many responses per person? Is this a format they should be able to fill in every other day or whatever they need to do for their jobs? Or is this a one-time thing? Well, you know what? It's a feedback form, so it's a one-time thing. So let's check that box and make sure that only one person has one go at this form. You've also got this other option here for who can fill in the form, which is specific people. So if we didn't want everyone in the business to be able to fill out this form, maybe it was department specific, like just for marketing or something, then you could choose that when you go to share it and select that option there. And again, you've got those same settings here. Okay, options for responses. Do we want to accept responses? Is this a live form? Is it active or not? If you uncheck that, people can't answer the form. If it's checked, they can answer all the questions. When do we want the form to become active, and when do we want it to end? Is there a deadline on this? Do we want it to start tomorrow and end in 1 week's time, and then after that no responses are accepted? If that's your requirement, you can absolutely tick these and configure them. Do we want to put a time duration on it? Do we want to say, well, you've only got 5 minutes to fill out this, and create a bit of panic? Maybe that's good for quizzes and assessments, probably not so good for capturing feedback. But that option is there, and it's in a minutes format. We can shuffle the questions as well, which again is probably more for quizzes and assessments where the order doesn't necessarily matter, and you want to give that different experience per candidate. Disable question numbers. Do you want to take the 1, 2, 3, question 4 out of the mix and just have the text there, the options there if you like it? Do you want to customize a thank you message? So once somebody submits the form, they hit submit and they get, your response was submitted. Do you want to put a bit of a fluffy message in there and say thank you? Do you want to allow the respondent to save their responses? So if they've responded, do you want to allow them to save that so then they can view it at a later date and review that? And then you've got these response receipts as well, which is allow receipt of responses after submission. And that basically, if you check that, it allows the recipient to get an email once they've filled in a form and it will tell them that they've filled it in. Bit of a confirmation exercise, I guess. And the second one is get email notification. So is there anyone in our business who wants an email notification every time this form is filled in? Probably not a good idea if you have thousands of users, but if you have just a handful for this form, then it might make sense that you have some notifications when they come in, and you could enter someone's name in there as well. So there are your kind of top level settings. We've talked about preview, so let's go to collect responses, and this is where it gets quite exciting now, because this is where we can share the form with people and get them to start filling in that information. So again, we've got these options here that we saw before. Who can respond? Anyone? Only people in Mondo, or specific people. And this is where we can actually define those specific people as well. If it was a group like marketing, so if I type marketing in there, it'll come back and find marketing, our marketing department, and so forth. So specific people, everyone in the organization, or anyone, even Mr. Smith down the road. But let's go with only people in Mondo because it is a summer conference. We then have that link there, and we can shorten that URL, so we can make it a bit shorter so it's not so long, and we can copy that straight away, and let's just paste that in the address bar now. That link there is going to take anyone who has it to this form, and they can actually start filling that information in now. It's ready to go already. How quick was that? We've also got a few options here. We've got a QR code that we can give to people, and we can also use this other option here to embed it into our website. So you can start embedding this all over the place into your own web pages for people to fill in. Going back to the first option though, we can also send an email or even a Teams message, an actual Teams chat to our colleagues who are in scope for this. So if I selected that now and hit send, we could send it to specific people and they'd get an email or a Teams message, whatever you've selected down here, and it would say, look, please would you, spend a few minutes completing this form for us, and it'd go out to them, and job's a good one. So that's how you kind of share the form and get it out to people. View responses is where we can actually view the responses that people have filled in. So first of all, let's go to the form now. Let's paste that link that we got earlier, and let's actually fill this form in as if we're a recipient who should be doing this. So let's hit start now. Did we attend the summer conference? I'm going to make it very quick here and just say yes. Let's do today's date, neutral and agree. Let's put loaded fries at the top. What would we be most excited for? Live music. Everybody loves music. And then let's hit submit. We get that message. Our response was submitted. Save my response. That's that option that allows them to do that. But now in view responses, we have the number one option here, which means we've already had our first response on the form. So if we click that, we get this lovely infographic here, and it's quite dynamic and interactive. We can see one response, average time of 25 seconds, and duration 0 days. Did you attend any of the summer conference dates this year? And this is a breakdown now of all the questions and all the responses. So we can see how many people answered yes, how many people answered no, how many people agreed with these different sentiments. Was it disagree, neutral, or agree? What was the favourite choice of food? And what do they want to see next time, for example? So you can instantly see that. And then you can break it down further. You can actually break it down and click more details for each question. And you'll be able to see who responded to that and what their answer was there. You can also export these details to Excel as well if you like. So open an Excel or download a copy of that Excel document. And you can also check individual results. So when we've clicked more details, we can absolutely see who said what. But if we hit check individual results here, we can then actually go through the form as if we were not filling it out, but exactly how the recipient saw it. So we can see me, Chris Hudson. Did I attend any of the summer conference dates this year? Yes. What was my answer? And if you remember, these are exactly the answers I gave. And then if there was another response here, you'd be able to hit the arrows on either side to go to respondent 1, respondent 2, and click through each person's answers if you like. So really cool, really exciting, and really insightful here. And then finally, we've got this 3 dots here, and we'll go through the present option when we do the quiz because it makes a bit more sense when we do that. So this is where we can collaborate or duplicate that form. So if we really like this form and we want to do the same for next year's summer conference, we can do that. We can duplicate the form by clicking this and hitting share as a template there. And that will allow us to create a form based on this one for next year and just make a few maybe minor tweaks for it. If we wanted to add somebody in so they can modify this form with us, so it's not just ourselves who are editing this, maybe we want to bring the event organizer in here too, we can absolutely click that and share it with them, and then they'll be able to collaborate too. We can print the form into a printed base if we like, and that is pretty much it. Cool. So that is how to create a blank canvas form. Now let's take a quick look at a new quiz. Okay, so this is the blank canvas for our quiz, and it's all very similar to creating a form with just a few options that are different. So let's start off with a nice fun title such as Maths Test Q1 2025, and Maths Test is the easiest way to kind of demonstrate some of the capabilities that we have. Let's add our first question, which will be solve X, and it'll be not a multi-choice, but it'll be a choice question format. And we're going to select maths here, which we didn't have before, and this allows us to enter equations, again something we couldn't do with a normal form. So let's enter an equation using this calculator interface and say, well, we're going to do x plus 2 equals 5. Nice easy one to get us started. And because we've used an equation, forms can actually generate some answers and wrong answers automatically on the back of our equation. So it's already noticed that 3 is the correct answer, hence the tick. And then we have some incorrect answers as well that we can add in there. So we're going to click add all. But if we didn't want these suggestions, we can always use these custom ones here to enter our own. So let's click add all. And there we go. And you can see again, 3 has got the green tick and these haven't, 7 and 13. And this is all to do with Form's ability to automatically mark the quiz once it's been completed by a recipient. If we unchecked this and didn't mark an answer, then Forms would have no way to work out which is the right and which is the wrong answer, and therefore it would require the owner of the form or the creator to go through and mark that form once it's been completed. But we want to save some time, so we're going to use that capability. So we're going to mark our correct answers as we go through this, so it can auto mark itself. And the points is a different element here that we didn't see in Forms, and this is all about scoring. So how many points do we want to award the recipient for getting this question right? Let's start off with 25. Let's add our next question, which is going to be text based, which isn't going to be text, funnily enough. It's actually going to be a number, but it's going to be a free box, if you like. They can type what they want in there. It's not going to be a predefined set of options like we had before. And we're going to ask the question, what is the square root of 81? Question mark. We're going to uncheck maths this time. We're just going to get rid of that equation box because there is no equation here. And then we're going to add our answers. So before we had to check which one was the answer using that green tick. With a text box, you have this option to add the answer here. And of course, the correct answer is 9. So we'll click 9, enter 9, and then click add. And if there's multiple correct answers, we could add another one here if we wanted, but there's one correct answer for this question, and that is 9. If we wanted to restrict the sort of characters that can go into this text box, this free box for the recipient, we can do that by hitting the 3 dots and saying, well, let's put some restrictions there and say you can only use numbers. We don't want you to enter text or any characters or any email addresses, just enter a number, and that's all that will be accepted. So basically, what is the square root of 81? If they answer anything other than 9, it's going to be marked as incorrect. If they answer 9, it's good. If they don't enter a number and they enter text, then they're going to get an error. And finally, the last question is going to be a multi-choice one of solve X and Y, so getting slightly more difficult now. We're going to hit maths once more, enter our equation, which will be X multiplied by Y equals 20, and hit OK there. And then we'll type some manual options in here. So let's start off with Y equals 6. Maybe we'll have Y equals 5. Add another option, X equals 3. And then finally, X equals 4. Okay, so the 2 correct answers are obviously 5 for Y and 4 for X. 5 times 4 is 20, but can you see we're not allowed to select multiple answers here, which is exactly what this setting here is for, multiple answers. So we'll click that, and then we're going to set a limit. So how many options can somebody choose? Well, there's no, we only want them to select 2. It shouldn't be 3 or 4. They shouldn't be able to select all of it, just 2. So let's set a limit that is equal to 2. So then we can select 2 answers, 4 and 5. And those are the correct ones, and it will auto mark on the back of it. Okay then, so let's take a look at how this works when we preview that then. So we've got 25 points, 25 points and 25 points. Let's just change that last one actually to be 50 points because it's a little bit harder and make it out of 100. So we've got our options here. So single select answer. Let's try and put some text in here. This value must be a number. Oops, yeah, we have restrictions there. And we also have this ability to select 2 answers. We can't select 2 or more here. We talked about before the present option, and we haven't actually used that yet. So I'm just going to hit collect responses here so I can share it out with myself and start filling in this form. What I'm going to do is hit this present option, and this is really useful if you've got a bit of a live quiz in a classroom or on a webinar and you want to kind of gauge feedback and answers as you're going through the quiz for recipient, and people can see what people have chosen. So if I go back into my maths test now, once I've clicked present here as the presenter, I go into maths test, I will select, well, X is obviously 3 in here, and then I will go through to the next question, which is what is the square root of 81? Well, it's 9. And then solve X and Y. Obviously, we know it's 5 times 4. And then we'll hit submit. And we can see we've got 100 out of 100 points here. It's automatically marked itself, and we can view the results, and we can also save my response. If we also populate another few responses now, such as an incorrect one, so let's say X equals 7, which it obviously doesn't. The square root of 81 is 20. And then maybe let's get this one right, and then we'll click submit. We'll be able to see how the scoring looks a bit different now. So last time we got everything right, 100 out of 100, and this time Forms has worked out, because we marked the correct answers before, that we haven't got some of the questions right, so we've got 50 out of 100 this time. If we go back to that presenter view now, we should be able to see these results flowing into that live dynamic view. And there we go, we can see here that 50% of people have said X equals 3, 50% is 7, 0% 13, and that's just question 1, solve X. We can see how many responses have been submitted in the top right as well. And as people click that submit button, that number will go up and the results here will change. If we flick through using the arrows, we can see the subsequent questions such as square root of 81, 20, 11, 9, 10. These are all the answers that are coming through. It's a nice kind of infographic as well that we have there. Going on to the next question, we can see varying percentages. Most people have got this one right. So it's a really good live dynamic view for a presenter, a teacher, someone hosting a webinar. We've also got the option to show the correct answer here as well. So once everyone's submitted their responses, or we feel we've got enough, we can click show correct answer and have a bit of a demo. So what was the correct answer for this question? Well, it was X equals 3, so 50% of people got that right, 50% didn't. And if we go through, we'll carry on seeing all the correct answer here and here. And we also have this little QR code on the left hand side, which again is really good for if you're presenting this quiz, because people can just scan that QR code from a mobile device or something and be brought straight to this questionnaire to fill it out. So we've talked about automatic marking, but let's have a look if we can manually give feedback to a student who got a question wrong. So we're going to hit view responses. This time we're going to go to review answers. And in here we can see respondent 1, Chris Hudson, 100 out of 100. No need to give any feedback there. Well done, Chris. Let's go to the next respondent. Oh, it's Chris again. This time he got 25 out of 100. And let's see what he did for this incorrect answer here. What is the square root of 81? Well, he put 10 and the correct answer is 9. So what we can actually do is say, well, if you're working out or part of the question was right, we can up this 0 out of 25 and say, well, you know what, we'll give you 5 points. It's still wrong, but we'll give you 5 points if you like, for at least getting halfway there. We can also use this comment button here as well on the side of each question to give some feedback to the students. So we can say, not quite, the answer was 9. And then after that, that will automatically save. There's actually no save or submit button. We just simply go through to the next respondent, Chris again, of course, and then give feedback and assign points there. Once we've done that, if we go back, we've got this post scores button where we can actually post these grades now back to the student. And if we hover over this question mark, it does say that posting scores will give the respondent access to view feedback and the results of their quiz. So anything we've changed in terms of their grading or any feedback we've given, once we've done, we click the respondent there, the form, and then we hit post scores, and then the student can use that same link that they access the form to begin with to then go and view their feedback. Cool. So I think that is forms in a nutshell. The only thing I wanted to show you that I promised at the beginning of this video is how to create a form using Copilot. So I've got a pre-made prompt here, and instead of closing this Copilot box now, I'm actually just going to type this in, which is, can you create me a form that collects employee satisfaction information? The questionnaire shouldn't ask for any personal information, just questions specific to employment, and they should be adequate enough to gauge an employee's happiness working at Mondo Cloud. So we've been very specific in terms of what we want the form to be and what the expectations are around it. And we're now just going to hit go on that. And this is the power of Copilot. Instead of having to go through all those different elements and adding all the forms and thinking of the questions, Copilot and AI now is going to use all its knowledge to be able to create and curate a form for us based on what we've asked. And look at this, we've got a title, a description, we've got a rating for how satisfied we are, we've got a choice question, we can put some improvements in there, and we've got a net promoter score as well. So with literally in a matter of seconds, we've now got a form that we can hit collect responses on, and then choose who we want to share it with, and then distribute that link accordingly. And how quick was that? So at the start of this video, we talked about some of the benefits of forms, such as the ability to harvest information and review it after. But we also mentioned that you can integrate forms for automation tasks. And this is where forms becomes even more powerful than what we've just seen. For example, if you were using a form to collect new starter information for a business, like their name, their date of birth, their email address, what data they should have access to, and applications in the business, and then you submitted that form for a new starter and somebody got that form and read through it manually and created the account, gave it the access that it needed, all manually. That's all well and good, right? There's some streamlining there. We've digitized that process, but it's still quite manual. What about if there was a solution where we could harvest that information and then give it to an automation engine to then go off and create that account automatically for us? Well, we can absolutely do that with a solution called Power Automate, which is another Microsoft product, and it's actually really accessible. It's included in most license types. And what we see on screen here is the beginning process to creating a new flow, which essentially is an automation job in Power Automate. We're not going to go into this solution in any great detail today at all, because we've already gone through forms quite a lot, the video is quite long, and Power Automate is absolutely huge. But essentially you get this flowchart interface here, and it's just like we're drawing out a process in Visio or on a piece of paper. So the first thing you do is select the box, and then you choose which form you want to trigger this automation job on. So let's link the employee satisfaction survey to this automation job. So when that form is submitted, what do we want to happen next? Well, we'll hit the plus icon. Now we've got the response, it's been submitted, and we've got the details of it. Look at all these connectors we've got here. There are literally hundreds upon hundreds of these, ranging from native Microsoft integrations such as SharePoint, Power BI, Planner, Outlook, OneDrive, all the way through to third parties like DocuSign and Adobe. Literally the possibilities are endless here. So let's just search for an action or connector here, such as send email. And we've got send email under Office 365 Outlook. So let's click that. Who do we want this email to go to when that form's submitted? What do we want the subject to be and the body? And the power of Power Automate, pardon the pun, is the ability to add variables using this lightning bolt option. And this is where we can start pulling in answers from the responses which we gathered previously, such as how satisfied are we with our current employer? And if I clicked that now, it would put this variable box in there, which means the answer, whatever the person, the recipient, enters into that form, that answer will be splattered out into this email that will go to somebody. So that is just a very basic example. There are so much stuff you can do, like I said, creating new starters, creating new SharePoint sites, granting permissions, removing permissions, leaver processes, talking to third-party systems, whatever it could be that you could get from a form. and then automate, you can pretty much do with this solution. So if any of this sparks your interest and you want to know more, we're here to help you and we are ready to do so. If this application has sparked your interest, or you're curious about any other area of the Microsoft Cloud Platform, or anything else IT related at all, even IT support, we're here to help. Feel free to reach out to us however you'd prefer, and let's explore how we can work together. Oh, and by the way, we also offer completely free Microsoft security assessments, providing you with a clear view of areas that could use improvement. After all, these applications that we're discussing today all store confidential data, just like the other applications that you use already, such as Outlook and Teams. So securing them is just as important. Find the link in the description below to request your completely free Microsoft Security Audit today. We're ready when you are.